أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الذين يؤمنون بالغيب, those who believe in the unseen. ويقيمون الصلاة ويؤتون الزكاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون, and those who perform sadaqah. In previous lectures, we discussed the symbolism behind the Quran and how, when trying to understand it, there is the literal interpretation that you must pray and you must do zakat. But if you only break it down to the literal interpretation, you lose much of the meaning. And if you notice, every time in the Quran when it says to pray and to do your zakat, what that is that it symbolizes, prayer symbolizes your responsibilities towards God, and zakat symbolizes your responsibilities towards others, towards people. And it's that we live in a fractal world. There are a universal set of patterns that govern the very being of humanity across multiple hierarchical scales. Religion is a modality of being. It's not a choice. When I discuss religion, I discuss it within the frameworks of human cognition and behavior. I don't mean you have to follow Islam or Christianity or Buddhism. It's not what I'm referring to. It's that religion, it's the manner or lens in which you perceive the world. And it's the hierarchy of values that fuels your motivations and attention. And without it, humanity cannot function. Yesterday, we discussed how we've isolated religion from human behavior, when in fact we should see them as a coherent set of behaviors that merged flawlessly together. And we used the religious symbolism from the creation story of Adam and Eve. We discussed the earth as being all matter, that which we touch, see, hear, measure, and observe. The sky being all which is abstract, conceptual, like reasoning, rationality, unity, love, and integrity. Whatever you can't touch, concepts you understand, but they don't have a physical form in the way we understand physical forms. And we discussed man, or Adam, being made of both clay from the earth and the Spirit of God from heavens, being a mediator between heaven and earth, the abstract and the concrete. And we gave the analogy of a scientist trying to unite abstract theory with the facts that he observes as a real-world example of a pattern, mediating meaning with observation. Sallallahu alaihi Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We also had in a previous lecture discussed God in the same manner. That which is your guiding star. It's a force that pulls you to it. And how that is indistinguishable from a God. And just like a God, it drives everything towards it, and it subjugates everything to it. And the attention that you give it is akin to worship. Today, I want to talk about Satan or Iblis. And I will start with أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Is that we must understand God, but God created a world of reason, and He created a world of polars and polar opposites. And part of understanding Allah is that we must understand Shaitan. What is he? Is he a necessary existence? Does he have to exist? Can we see him? How should we engage with him? Should we engage with him? What does the relationship with the devil look like? Does he exist within your consciousness, or does he exist outside of your consciousness? So who is Iblis? We know him in our religion as Iblis. The Christians and the Abrahamic religions have the same. In mythology, Egyptians know him as Seth. The Greeks know him as Hades. The Norse, they know him as, what's his name again? I forgot his name. The guy is in a Marvel. Loki, the trickster god. So can we see him? Earlier we discussed that Adam was made of clay, made of earth. What is Shaitan made of? He's made of fire. He's made of nar as-samum. He's made of smokeless fire. He does not exist. He does not exist within our perceptual reality. And to ask you a question, because somebody asked me this question the other day, is that if you can see the devil, would you want to see him? And my immediate answer was yes, of course. And it's because Allahumma wa man aradani bisu'in fa'arid, is that anyone who wants to hurt me, logically, anyone who wants to hurt me, I should be able to want to see them. Because if I'm not aware of them, I will argue further that we all actually do see him, and different people see him to a different degree. Of course, it depends on definition of see, but we all feel his presence when we're tempted to sin, as we've all felt him at certain times or another. So what does a relationship with the devil look like? Relationship is a neutral term. You have relationships that are good for you and relationships that are bad for you. And you have to cultivate the relationships that are good for you by engaging with them in a manner that brings you closer together. Prayer is a means in which we engage with God in order to cultivate a relationship with Him. And when it comes to the devil, what we don't do is engage with him in a manner that would cultivate that relationship. But we also don't ignore him. Because if we do, we are ignorant of him. And the degree to which we are ignorant of him is the same degree in which we are imprisoned by him. It's one and the same. So we look towards the prophets and how they engaged with the shaitan. What did Ayub, what did Ibrahim do? Is that he treated him like a pest. They threw a rock at the devil. You must acknowledge his existence, because there are dark rooms deep within all our psyches. And we must discover where these rooms are and bring in the light of God. Because darkness is only the absence of light. You do this by understanding yourself and which crack he slipped in from. Because none of us are perfect, and we all have cracks. Someone who is prone to anger, by seeing his devil, he identifies. He will identify the anger with the demon. By identifying, he can control himself. Once he does that, he can look within himself to see what it is within himself that he's ignorant of. And in shining the light of God on that aspect of ourselves, we will rid the shaitan. We will rid ourselves from the demons trying to possess us. So there are good principalities, and they exist in the form of angels. And there are bad principalities, and they exist in the form of demons. And these principalities, they bind groups together, and they bind the way in which the world manifests itself. And when they are not brought together under God, they tend to create conflict. See, the mystery, in a certain manner, it's resolved ultimately by man. Because the perfect union between man and God is where all of this resolves. And the union between man and the devil is where chaos ensues. So are they cosmic entities, or do they only exist inside our minds and psyches? And I know there's a lot of evil in this world, and I hear this question a lot from a lot of people, is that if God was just, why does he allow so much suffering? Because there are so many innocent people, and there is a lot of evil. And that's not a question that I can ask today within the time frame allotted, but I'm going to approach the question in a different way, is that I think of it too. Because how do I say this? You question. So I can't question God, but I can ask God a question. There's a huge difference. So why is it that for me it's almost like mathematical. It's a formula, and it doesn't, I don't understand it. And the key to understanding it is understanding the fractal nature of the universe and how patterns emerge in scales and hierarchies. And you have to think of the imagery of being possessed by a demon of greed. And you give in. If you're tempted by greed, so think of the imagery of being possessed by a demon of greed. Is it our own sins and desires from within, or is it the demons possessing us from without? And I say it's actually both at the same time. There's a kind of cosmic reflection when you become a slave to a passion or a pattern of thought. And what you're doing is you're participating, or you're sharing in the existence of that demon in the bigger world. And that's why Allah says to the shaitan, وَشَارِكْهُمْ, and share with them, وَشَارِكْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَوْلَادِ وَعِدُهُمْ, and share with them your children, and share with them your wealth. So it's not something that's magical, and it's not something, and devil is not something that's woo-woo, I think is the word. It's very basic. If you're tempted by greed and you give in to that desire, you act greedy. And that's what makes greed grow in the world. And you're feeding this demon. So the world itself becomes greedier. And it's a top-down and also bottom-up relationship. That's why Allah says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُوا مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. It starts within. The only thing you can do to fight the devil is work on yourself. You can't control other people. And that translates into real world, and it has the and it has the same and opposite effect. But instead of participating in the bad, you're participating in the good, and you're participating in the divine, and you're participating with Allah, and that's what it means to be one with God. Thank you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.